Fewer and fewer people are walking into Subway these days. The once iconic sandwich chain is watching millions of customers slip away. But here's the strange part. It's not just about bland taste or rising prices. Something buried deep inside Subway's own system has been quietly driving people out. Could it be that the very thing that made Subway famous is also what destroyed it? For years, Subway was defined by a single unforgettable deal, the $5 footlong. You couldn't escape it. Catchy jingles on the radio, endless TV commercials, and the promise of a full 12-inch sandwich for the price of a latte. It was simple, brilliant, and it pulled in crowds like never before. Launched in 2008, the $5 footlong was more than just a promotion. It was a cultural moment. No gimmicks, no coupons, no limited time only nonsense. Just $5 for a full sandwich. The idea was so easy that even kids could do the math, and America went crazy for it. By lunchtime, lines wrapped around the block. People who had never considered Subway suddenly became loyal customers. Sales skyrocketed, and for a while, it felt like Subway had discovered a secret formula for unlimited growth. But behind the shiny numbers, things weren't so rosy. For franchise owners, the math was a nightmare. A 12-inch sub loaded with bread, meat, cheese and veggies often cost more than $5 to make. Factor in rent, employee wages and electricity, and many owners were losing money every time they handed over a sandwich. The promotion was a hit with customers, but a financial disaster for franchisees. Some reported losing thousands of dollars every single month, all thanks to the deal that corporate Subway kept pushing. Imagine running a lemonade stand where every cup you sold dug you deeper into debt. That's exactly how it felt. And here's where things got ugly. Customers wanted cheap food, but franchisees wanted to survive. Corporate Subway was stuck in the middle, and neither side was happy. By 2012, something had to change, and change it did, quietly. The $5 footlong started disappearing from menus without warning. No goodbye ad, no nostalgic farewell, nothing. One week you paid $5, and the next week, that same sandwich was $8 or $9. The shock was immediate. For college students who relied on Subway as a cheap lunch, suddenly they needed nearly double the money. It felt less like inflation and more like betrayal. And here's a fascinating side note. Behavioral economists say that when prices jump suddenly, even if it's just a couple of dollars, it creates what's called price shock. That shock sticks in people's minds, and they often never return to the brand, even years later. Subway wasn't just losing sales, it was losing trust. For countless families, Subway had been the go-to spot for an affordable dinner. Parents knew they could feed the kids without wrecking the budget. Office workers counted on that $5 sandwich as part of their daily routine. But when prices suddenly doubled, it forced millions to rethink their dining choices altogether. Many never looked back. Subway tried damage control. They brought the deal back, but only in limited runs, a $5 footlong month, a watered-down $6 footlong version. But by then, the magic was gone. Customers had already learned a painful truth. When a brand breaks its promise, earning trust back is almost impossible. Instead of feeling excited, people saw these comeback deals as desperate gimmicks. For the loyal customers who once built their budgets around that $5 meal, the betrayal felt personal. Imagine relying on a favorite grocery store to keep prices steady, and one day everything doubles. It wasn't just about sandwiches, it was about trust. And once that foundation cracked, people started noticing everything else that felt off about Subway. The $5 footlong hadn't just been a promotion, it was a promise. And Subway broke it without warning or explanation. But price wasn't the only thing that began raising eyebrows. Another problem was literally baked into the bread, or at least, that's what people thought. Remember those signs that proudly declared, fresh bread baked daily? Customers expected warm, fluffy bread that smelled like it had just come from a real bakery. But behind the counter, the reality was very different. Most Subway shops weren't baking bread from scratch at all. Instead, they received frozen dough shipped in from warehouses. Workers would thaw it overnight, and then toss it into small convection ovens. Technically, yes, it was baked on site, but in practice, it was more like reheating leftovers than baking. This shortcut saved time and cut costs for franchise owners, but it came with a hidden price: taste. Frozen dough just doesn't deliver the same quality. The crust stayed soft instead of turning golden and crisp. The inside turned out dense, chewy and heavy. Over time, customers noticed. Subtle at first, but eventually impossible to ignore. And here's a fun fact. Food scientists point out that when dough is frozen, the ice crystals can damage gluten strands. That's why bread made from frozen dough rarely has the same airy texture as truly fresh bread. Subway may have thought no one would notice, but people did, bite after disappointing bite. And if you thought the bread situation was bad, the meat story makes things even stranger. Take Subway's chicken and turkey for example. Before it ever reaches the store, much of it gets pumped full of salt water. Why? Because water adds weight. That means suppliers can charge Subway for 6 ounces of meat, even if only 4 ounces are actual protein, and the rest is flavored liquid. Customers pay for meat but get watered-down protein. This isn't just a Subway issue, it's an industry-wide trick known as plumping. But for a chain that bragged about being the fresh option, finding out your sandwich was bulked up with salt water felt like a slap in the face. And the vegetables? They weren't much better. The farm-fresh lettuce, tomatoes and peppers were often pre-chopped in warehouses, packed in plastic, and shipped out days before anyone ate them. By the time they landed in stores, the lettuce was limp, tomatoes watery, and peppers soggy. Customers expected crisp salads. Instead, they got veggies that looked tired of trying. Social media exploded with photos of sad, wilted lettuce, rubbery meat, and bread that people compared to cardboard. Review sites turned brutal. One disappointed customer after another posted about stale ingredients and overpriced sandwiches. Memes about moldy vegetables spread like wildfire online, and word of mouth only accelerated Subway's downfall. The chain built its empire on the promise of fresh, but the reality customers tasted was anything but. But here's the twist. Food quality was only the beginning. Much bigger scandals were about to turn Subway into the punchline of late-night talk shows. Back in 2013, headlines broke a shocking story. Subway bread contained a chemical called azodicarbonamide. If that name doesn't sound familiar, maybe this will. It's also used to make yoga mats and shoe soles. Yes, you heard that right. Food bloggers connected the dots, and soon the internet went wild. Jokes, memes, late-night comedy skits, all mocking Subway sandwiches for having more in common with gym gear than real food. Under pressure, Subway eventually pulled the chemical from its recipes. But by then the damage was done. Once customers associate your bread with yoga mats, it's nearly impossible to make them forget. And then came the tuna debacle. Multiple lawsuits accused Subway of selling tuna sandwiches that contained, well, something else entirely. Independent labs allegedly couldn't find a trace of tuna DNA in certain samples. Customers were horrified. Were they eating mystery meat? Subway denied the claims and fought back in court, but the headlines alone left lasting scars. When customers start questioning what animal is even in this sandwich, that's a trust problem no marketing campaign can fix. The lawsuits dragged on, keeping Subway in the spotlight for all the wrong reasons. And as if that weren't enough, nutrition tests piled on more bad news. Some Subway sandwiches contained more sodium than an entire bag of potato chips. For a brand once marketed as the healthy alternative to fast food, that revelation was crushing. Some of Subway's so-called healthy sandwiches carried over 2,000 milligrams of sodium. That's nearly an entire day's recommended limit for adults packed into a single meal. For a brand that built its reputation as the better alternative to greasy fast food, these numbers hit like a betrayal. Health-conscious customers felt tricked into thinking they were making smart choices, only to learn their diet-friendly sandwich was saltier than a burger and fries. Parents were especially outraged. Many had chosen Subway thinking they were feeding their kids something cleaner and safer. Instead, they discovered they'd been misled all along. But nothing could prepare the public for the scandal that hit in 2015. Subway's longtime spokesperson, the face of the brand for more than 15 years, was suddenly arrested and convicted on horrifying criminal charges. The news sent shockwaves across the country. It felt like finding out your trusted family doctor had secretly been dealing poison in the back alley. Subway scrambled to erase him from every ad, every commercial, every billboard. But the association was burned into people's minds. For months, every mention of Subway came with a reminder of that scandal. The chain's wholesome image collapsed overnight, and no amount of PR spending could repair it. The problem went deeper than just one spokesperson. Customers began asking a bigger question. What else has Subway been hiding from us? And the more people looked, the worse it got. Even simple day-to-day visits revealed cracks in the system. Walk into a Subway during lunch rush, and you'll likely see one exhausted worker scrambling to serve 20 impatient customers. Orders get mixed up, sandwiches slapped together carelessly, and frustration brews on both sides of the counter. Why? Because Subway's model depends on paying workers as little as possible. Most employees earn minimum wage, whether they've been there for a week or a year. Training is often rushed, sometimes just a few hours spent learning how to press buttons and slice meat. It's like expecting someone to become a professional pianist after one lesson on the keys. Unsurprisingly, turnover is sky high. Many employees quit within 6 months. Some don't even make it through their first week. That constant churn means customers rarely see the same faces behind the counter. There's no relationship, no familiarity, no sense of trust. Instead, every visit feels like training a new employee. Customers find themselves repeating orders step by step, correcting mistakes, or walking away with a sandwich that looks nothing like what they asked for. Regulars who remembered a time when service was consistent and friendly couldn't help but feel the decline. And even worse, the inconsistency spread to the food itself. One employee might pile on vegetables and protein generously. The next one might scatter a few leaves of lettuce and call it done. For customers paying higher prices than ever, that unpredictability was the final straw. Sometimes the sandwich experience got downright absurd. One employee might pile on lettuce like they were feeding a rabbit, while the next carefully counts out each piece like it's gold currency. Meat slices, so thin you could practically read the newspaper through them. Getting the same sandwich twice felt harder than finding a matching sock after laundry day. But this wasn't just random inconsistency. It was by design. Many workers revealed they were directly instructed by managers to ration every slice of cheese, every shred of lettuce, every tomato. The goal? Boost profit margins. The result? Customers paying full menu prices for half the sandwich they expected. The tension spilled over quickly. Customers accused employees of skimping on food. Workers just following orders pushed back. Clips of angry confrontations started going viral on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Subway wasn't trending for its food. It was trending for fights over portion sizes. And the service? It became rushed, robotic, and frustrating. With workers overwhelmed, underpaid, and undertrained, mistakes became the norm. Forgotten toppings, wrong bread, messed up orders. The constant churn of new hires meant that every visit felt like rolling the dice. Would you get someone who cared, or someone who just wanted the shift to end? Some customers tried avoiding the lunch rush altogether, hoping for better service at slower hours. But even then, the experience depended on luck. One good employee could make a sandwich decent. The next one could ruin it entirely. But here's the key. These staffing nightmares weren't just about lazy workers or cranky customers. They were symptoms of something bigger, problems buried deep in the franchise system itself. On paper, owning a Subway franchise looked like a dream: low startup costs, a globally recognized brand, and a simple business model anyone could run. But behind the curtain, franchise owners discovered the truth. The system seemed built to enrich corporate headquarters at the expense of the people actually running the stores. Fees piled up endlessly. Initial buy-in costs, monthly royalty payments, mandatory contributions to advertising funds, equipment leases, supply markups. Many owners found that after paying corporate, they had little, sometimes nothing left to take home. It was like renting an apartment where your landlord takes the bedroom and you're left to sleep in the closet. And then came the franchise killer: territory rights, or rather the lack of them. Subway had a habit of approving new restaurants right across the street, or in the very same shopping plaza as existing ones. Suddenly, an owner who invested life savings into a location had to compete with another Subway. Imagine planting 2 apple trees in the same tiny pot and expecting both to thrive. That's what Subway was doing to its own operators. For corporate headquarters, flooding the market with Subways made perfect sense. More stores meant more royalty checks, more fees, more cash flow straight to the top. But for the franchise owners actually running those shops, it was a slow death sentence. When 2 Subways popped up in the same neighborhood, the customer base was split in half overnight. Some owners reported losing 40 to 50% of their business the moment a new store opened nearby. To the people who had sunk their life savings into these franchises, it felt like betrayal. Corporate was supposed to be their partner, but instead, it often felt like the enemy. When equipment broke down, fixes could take weeks. When sales dipped, the solutions offered were overpriced promotional packages that drained money without guaranteeing results. And when desperate owners complained about declining profits, the corporate answer was simple: work harder, work longer, or sell your store to someone else. That cold response summed up how far the relationship had fallen. Under that pressure, franchisees had no choice but to cut costs. They bought cheaper ingredients, hired fewer workers, shrank portion sizes, and stretched operating hours to exhaustion. But every corner cut made the customer experience worse. People noticed smaller sandwiches, slower service, and lower quality, and they stopped coming. That only deepened the financial hole. It became a vicious cycle. Less revenue led to harsher cost cutting, which led to even fewer customers until the business simply collapsed. Some owners walked away in debt, their dreams shattered. Others declared bankruptcy after losing every dollar they invested. A few banded together, forming legal groups to fight back against corporate policies in court. Others abandoned Subway entirely and reinvested in rival brands. The entire franchise model, once sold as the ticket to the American dream, had turned into a nightmare, served on stale bread with a side of broken promises. By this point, the relationship between corporate Subway and its own franchisees was toxic. Both sides blamed each other for sinking sales. Former owners flooded online forums and support groups, warning would-be investors to stay far away. Stories of financial ruin and broken families spread like cautionary tales. And while Subway was busy fighting its own people, the competition was quietly pulling ahead. Chains like Panera, Chipotle, and Firehouse Subs were offering fresher food, better service, and more consistent quality. Customers who abandoned Subway didn't have to go far to find a tastier, healthier alternative. The fast casual restaurant wars were heating up, and Subway was losing badly on every front. While Subway was drowning in scandals and internal chaos, its competitors were busy rewriting the rules of fast casual dining. Chipotle led the charge by putting ingredient transparency front and center. Their ads boasted meat raised without antibiotics, vegetables chopped fresh every morning, and rice that actually looked like it belonged on a dinner table, not something scooped out of a processed food bin. The difference was obvious. Eating at Chipotle felt closer to a home-cooked meal, while Subway was starting to resemble a sad frozen dinner thawed out after months in the freezer. Panera carved out its own lane by branding itself as the sophisticated alternative. Walk inside and you'd see real bread baking in ovens, not frozen loaves reheated in metal trays. Their soups came from actual recipes, not powdered packets mixed with hot water. And their salads, made with ingredients customers could actually pronounce. Sure, Panera charged more than Subway, but customers happily paid for food that looked and tasted authentic. Even the atmosphere worked in Panera's favor. Cozy cafe seating, warm lighting, and free Wi-Fi encouraged people to linger, turning meals into experiences. Customers didn't just eat there, they returned again and again because it felt like a place worth spending time. Jersey Mike's went for a simpler strategy: just make better sandwiches, more generous portions, fresher bread, high-quality deli meat, sliced right in front of you. No gimmicks, no overhyped ads, just submarine sandwiches made the way customers expected. Side-by-side taste tests with Subway became embarrassing, like showing up to a fashion show in your pajamas. Then came Firehouse Subs, and they changed the game completely. Instead of cold assembly line sandwiches, Firehouse served steamed meats, melted cheese, and toasted bread. That one shift created a totally different eating experience. Add in their firefighter-themed branding and a public commitment to supporting first responders, and customers felt an emotional connection Subway never came close to creating. The results spoke for themselves. Food delivery apps and sales data painted a brutal picture. By 2021, Subway orders had fallen by more than 30%. Meanwhile, Chipotle, Panera, Jersey Mike's, and Firehouse were all climbing steadily month after month. The trend wasn't slowing, it was accelerating. Customers weren't just drifting away from Subway. They were actively choosing brands that gave them what Subway once promised but failed to deliver: real food, quality service, and trust. By the mid-2020s, the writing was on the wall. Market research revealed a brutal truth: young consumers had abandoned Subway. For Gen Z and younger millennials, cold submarine sandwiches no longer fit their lifestyles or tastes. Instead, they gravitated toward burrito bowls, hot-pressed sandwiches, and meals that could be customized in real time. Restaurants like Chipotle and Firehouse offered visible kitchens and interactive experiences where customers watched their food being prepared right in front of them. It gave diners a sense of trust and control. By comparison, Subway's assembly line process, once seen as fresh and modern, now felt mechanical, repetitive, and outdated. The cultural gap widened on social media. Influencers regularly showcased their Chipotle bowls, Panera Bread bowls, or Jersey Mike's sandwiches, but Subway, it was rarely if ever mentioned in a positive light. The brand that once marketed itself as fresh had lost its cool factor entirely. To younger customers, eating at Subway was the equivalent of watching black and white television while the rest of the world enjoyed streaming in 4K. The shift wasn't just about food, it was about expectations. Customers now demanded higher quality ingredients, warmer atmospheres, and dining experiences that felt personal instead of rushed. Competitors gave them exactly that. Subway didn't. What made things worse was timing. As consumer expectations skyrocketed, Subway was bogged down with internal chaos, failing franchises, angry owners, high employee turnover, and a brand image shattered by scandals. While rivals were shaping the future of fast casual dining, Subway was stuck trying to patch the past. Industry analysts didn't sugarcoat it. They predicted continued decline unless Subway executed a massive transformation and fast. But with so many structural problems weighing the company down, the question wasn't how Subway could save itself. It was whether saving it was even possible. The fresh empire had reached a breaking point. What came next would determine whether Subway remained a household name or became just another cautionary tale in the restaurant industry.